So I'm not gonna shit on Will and act like he hasn't been and wasn't that guy. I'm gonna go Will Smith. And people make mistakes, and from mistakes, they should be allowed time to fucking recover.
It's been almost a month since the Chris Rock comedy special and more than a year since the infamous Oscars lap. But it seems the world is still not over it. In the beginning, it was the fans and some celebrities talking about the incident, keeping the topic alive. But that has changed recently. Initially, the celebrities closest to the feuding duo chose to stay all hush-hush on the subject. And all of us were eagerly waiting to see what secrets and insider info their inner circle had to reveal. Among these celebrities is none other than Kevin Hart. Being both an actor and stand-up comedian, Kevin is known to be very close to both Will and Chris. And it seems like he has finally opened up about the situation. And believe me, he has a lot to say. Apparently, in the beginning, he was all Team Will, supporting him, making sure he's okay, the whole deal. But just recently, he made a 180-degree turn to Team Chris. Wait till you find out what he had to say about Will and the stunt he pulled at the Oscars. To me, it seems like he's playing a bit of both sides. So stay tuned with me today. You're in for a crazy ride. Before we get into it though, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to never miss out on any new videos. It's free and helps us tremendously to keep producing videos for your enjoyment. So, here's what the comedian had to say recently about the whole shenanigan. While in an interview talking about his recent new movie, Kevin Hart had more to talk about than just the film. Somehow, the conversation diverted from his project and moved on to his thoughts on the Chris Rock-Will Smith debacle. During a conversation, Kevin Hart was asked about his thoughts on Chris Rock's latest comedy special, and he had nothing but praise for the veteran comedian.
I loved it, man. Chris talks about himself, his life. That's what the great comics do.
As fellow comedians, Kevin and Chris have a deep respect for each other's craft, and it's always great to see them supporting each other. Chris Rock is known for his ability to turn his personal experiences and observations into comedy gold, and his latest special was no exception. Many people believe that the best comedy comes from personal experiences, and Chris is a master at finding humor in the mundane details of life, relationships, politics, pop culture. He has a way of making us laugh while also challenging us to think. For Kevin, it's clear that Chris's latest special is a shining example of what makes a great comedian. By sharing his own story, Chris connects with his audience on a deeper level and gives them something to relate to. And for those of us who enjoy watching comedians do what they do best, it's always a joy to see someone like Chris Rock at the top of his game. But that wasn't all. The interviewer also asked Kevin if he thinks they'll be over their beef now that both parties have publicly addressed the issue. Now this is where things get interesting. Listen up closely. It was pretty shocking. Kevin was asked if he thinks Will Smith and Chris Rock can bury the hatchet, and also wanted to know if Kevin was taking sides. But Hart's no fool when it comes to taking that bait. Kevin stayed cool and said,
I hope so, you know. You gotta let things die down and just be over it. The best way to do it is to not discuss it. They're grown. They'll be okay. They'll figure it out.
Now, he's not wrong to say that he hopes the two will get over it. Honestly speaking, at this point, we're also kind of done with how this got so dragged out. And we all know that Chris and Will are super talented and successful, so they'll figure it out. I mean, they've got bigger things to worry about than some petty feud, right? Well, at least that's what Kevin Hart thinks. Let's hope that they can shake things off, because I think we're all ready to see some more movies and comedy specials, right? But there is one little interesting tidbit to this whole story. Remember how I mentioned that Kevin started by saying Chris was the OG and how great he is at what he does and how he loved the comedy special? Well, from that, one might assume that he was all Team Chris, right? I mean, if he loved the comedy special, he must have loved the jokes and the parts where Chris was blatantly trolling Will. And fans are poking holes in this, with Hart's statements kind of riling them up. Why? Well, for one thing, up until just a few months ago, Kevin was all for Will Smith. Did you see that clip of Kevin Hart on Drink Champs? If you missed it, while on the show, one of the questions he was asked was Will Smith versus Ice Cube. And Kevin was quick to respond, saying,
They both are my brothers, but I'm not going to take the time to shit on them.
But when he was pressed a little further, Kevin had some tea to spill. He ultimately chose
Will Smith, and here's why.
Whoa.
Will Smith is he's not only a legend, he's not only a GOAT.
And you know what? He's not wrong. According to Kevin,
Will Smith is the reason why the idea of African Americans attached to global IP is normal.
That's what it means.
Studios took the gamble on more leads of color because of the work that Will Smith, Denzel were doing in the beginning. I want to go Will Smith. And people make mistakes, and from mistakes, they should be allowed time to recover.
Also, back then, not only was he defending Will Smith, but he also took a shot at the lack of diversity in Hollywood. Kevin claimed that Smith was the one who gave actors a platform to shine, especially those who were struggling due to racial discrimination in the industry, which is pretty epic to say if you ask me. And then, in the aftermath of the Oscars, Kevin Hart was telling everyone to go back off and give Will Smith some space to recover from the disappointment. He also called out to his buddy Chris Rock to help deal with the situation. And honestly, can you blame him? These guys are professionals, and they know how to handle themselves. Kevin Hart had some pretty strong feelings about the Oscars drama when he spoke out about it. He believed that everyone needed to back off and just let Will Smith and Chris Rock handle it themselves. He stated,
"In that this is no longer the world's problem. It's Will and Chris's problem. Let them deal with that. The world should step out of it."
Now, to add some more fuel to this whole debate, Kevin Hart did try to subtly tell Chris that Will is the greatest of all time. Okay, so this happened during a show. Kevin saw his chance to make a joke and brought out a goat on stage to present it to Chris. But things didn't exactly go to plan. So Chris looked totally confused when this goat came out and was probably wondering what on earth was going on. Now, Kevin had a punchline set up ready to go. Before handing over the leash, he was going to say,
"Come in, the name is Will Smith. Come in." What did I say?
And everyone would have laughed and it would have been all good. But Chris was so thrown off by the whole goat situation, the joke did not land. Honestly, it was super awkward. According to XXL magazine, Chris just looked at Kevin like he was crazy and said something like, "I don't even know what you're talking about, man." And that was pretty much the end of that. Anyway, you can see why fans are riled up. First, Hart's all for Will. Now he's siding with Chris. Like, geez, bro, playing both sides, I see. I mean, I get it. You don't want to get on anyone's bad side, but it's kind of weird that over the course of 6 months, he basically called both of them the GOAT. My guess, he probably doesn't want to be getting any slaps from Will or be the butt of Chris Rock's jokes. So he's playing it cool by giving some love to both sides. What do you think of the entire scenario? Comment down below and let us know. And if you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week, where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.
I think that's something deeper than anybody will ever understand, and that's why I said the world is now out of it. It should stay out of it and move on. Let Will recover from it. Let Chris get back to work as normal, and let two men be men and figure that out if they choose to.
Facts.
If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't.
We gotta take a shot for that.